Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. First response to the video I put up just a day or so ago, which was the Ask the Mr. Hall of Fame, where I just kind of told you guys to ask me any questions that you wanted to know about this, that, or the other. And I got a number of comments that were kind of coming in, so I thought instead of waiting till the weekend and making like a 40-minute video, I was just kind of divided up into doing like some quick 15-minute type of videos, just answering a few of the questions and kind of going from there. And so if you haven't seen the video, there's a link down below. What I'm going to do is, as I answer each one of the questions, I'm just going to put like a heart on the comment, so that way I'll know which ones I haven't answered. So when I come back to make the next video, I'll know which ones to kind of pick up with. And for those of you that haven't made comments or would still like to, or have some other comments, the link's right down below. Just go to that video and leave another comment, and it'll leave me one more great thing to kind of talk about in a future video too. So yeah, as many as possible, because I'm having fun kind of doing these with you guys. So I appreciate the interaction. So let's just kind of jump right into it. We'll just go through the first few questions, starting from the bottom. So number one, how many records in your collection have you not played because you haven't had enough time? There might be actually a little way to kind of twist that question around for me, because as far as records in my collection, I have played every single record that's in my collection. That's actually a hard rule. Nothing goes on the shelf in my collection without me listening to every single song on it. Hard rule. So I've listened to every single song. So what might be a slightly more accurate, or not accurate, but a question that kind of addresses this would be, once a record is in your collection, how often is it that you, or how long is it might take you to get back to it or listen to it again or something like that. So the best way I've found to kind of answer that question is, you know, because I've got comments like that before in the past, like, there's no way you can listen to all that music and, you know, that type of thing. And really the way that I've kind of learned to address that in terms of explaining it is, that's just not a music collection. Like, that's my life story back there. Almost every single emotion or feeling or experience I've had in my life can be summed up through something on one of those albums, at least, back there in that collection. So that's my diary that's basically sitting back there. And so the way I look at like how often do you get to spin an album is almost the same way I would look at someone saying, or with me saying, I had a bunch of great memories from ninth grade. So a lot of fun stuff happened, right? Do I think about it, or is there a memory from ninth grade that I have not thought about in the past year, or past 2 years for that matter? Yeah, there are some good memories from ninth grade that I haven't thought about in the past year or 2 years. Doesn't mean I won't think about them again, and even more so, why would I want to erase that memory, even if I had the option to erase that memory, just because I haven't thought about it for the last year or two? So that's kind of the same way I view those memories in there. It's like, yeah, I got an album maybe a year or so ago. I listened to it. I only get stuff that I like, so nothing's in there just for collection's sake. And I listened to it. I enjoyed it. It went in my collection. Maybe I don't get around to listening to it for a year again, but that's still, it's a fantastic memory to something that I love, and I don't want to erase that memory out of my diary. And at some point in time, I'll end up going back to that memory, or even more so, as I'm listening and experiencing another memory, I may be flipping through and just looking and checking out, oh, totally forgot about this album, totally, and I can enjoy it without ever actually having put it on the turntable again, because there's much, much more to experiencing the joy and the memories and everything associated with music beyond just the sound waves. And I think some people that aren't music enthusiasts and music collectors, that aren't both of those things, that sometimes seems to be kind of a hard thing to understand, or a concept to put together. It's like, if you're not listening to it right now, every week, get rid of it, you know, that kind of thing. So, yes, I mean, that's kind of how I've, you know, tried to explain kind of how that piece works. So hopefully that kind of addresses that question a bit. Let's see, question number 2. Oh, JC from the flip side, right? You know, JC, what's your number one Grail, and is the best pickup of the year? That was a hard question because I never actually thought about my number one Grail. So the question I asked myself to narrow it down was, if I had to sell all my Grails this week, what are the last 2 or so that I would hope did not sell, even if other things went? Now, I was kind of surprised at what popped up for me when I thought about it that way. And it was these two, which is my Danzig Gold Stamp promo with the hype sticker. Absolute beautiful near mint copy of that. And Melvin's Houdini, an original pressing, also near mint copy, signed by Dale and Buzz when I saw them in concert a number of years ago. But nice, beautiful original pressing there. So yeah, that was kind of surprising, because those by far are not like my most valuable albums or anything, but just the sentimental value that popped out when I was thinking about that. I was like, these are the two I just could not let go. And what was your best pickup was JC's other question for the year. Again, I had 3 that came to mind, and I said I was just going to wait until I started doing the video to actually decide. And I'm going to pick this one. That's a lot easier than actually making a decision. Mark Cohen from 1991. Of course, he had the gigantic hit Walking in Memphis on this. This was a great pickup, because not only was it a Grail, something I wanted for quite some time, but it was an album that I had made no effort to seek out whatsoever, because I just thought, I'm never going to pay as much as it's running. Original pressings, Mrhoffame pressings are all running about the same price, so it's just, I have a Mrhoffame CD, so that's that. And one day I came into the shop, and Billy had it behind the counter, and he was like, "Are you interested in this?" Where he had got it in a trade, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I finally have it." So that's probably my pickup of the year right there. All right, so next question. Actually, there's 2 questions like this, so I'll just kind of do them both at the same time. Cassettes, do you think 2021 is a good time to get into them? And then 715 TMC asked, are you buying cassettes that artists are currently putting out? And what makes you want to buy a cassette? All right, so it's a good time to get into them. Are you currently buying them? And what makes you want to buy a cassette? Is 2021 a good time to get into cassettes? I say yes. I think pretty much any time, right, is a good time to get into cassettes, mainly because it's still a great way to get a lot of music for pennies. If you're into the metal stuff and things like that, a lot of that stuff is still kind of collectible, and there's some stuff that you have to pay higher dollar for. But in general, like a lot of your 80s pop, rock, and new wave and stuff like that, there's thousands and thousands of titles that you can get for very, very cheap if you actually want to physically own music by getting on cassettes. I think it's definitely a great time to start. Am I currently buying albums that are being put out on cassette? Not as much, just because a lot of the artists that I want albums by aren't putting things out on cassette right now. But yeah, if more of the artists that I actually wanted cassettes by were doing it, oh yeah, in a heartbeat, I'd be picking up cassettes left and right. I mean, like Billie Eilish, for example, I'm not really a big fan of hers. I'm not a huge fan of her stuff, but I even said the other day when I was in the shop, I love the fact that she's has stuff coming out on vinyl, 45s, cassettes, all of that. Like, that to me is fantastic for music. So that's great, and I hope more do. I know Rob Zombie, his new album this past year, he put it out on cassette, and I grabbed that as soon as I saw it. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And what makes you buy a cassette? Because that's how much I love music. I mean, like, really, every format to me, each format brings something to the table that the other formats don't. And each format also leaves something off that the other formats don't. So every single one, vinyl, cassette, CD, streaming, reel-to-reel, they all have a slightly different experience when dealing with experiencing an album. So cassettes are just one more way to experience the music that I love that much. And as kind of like a longtime music lover and someone that's so open to all the different formats and not getting locked into one, I get different urgings and cravings to experience music in different ways. Last night is actually a perfect example. I was listening to Garbage, self-titled, their album, and Permanent Waves by Rush. Literally, I went to my stack, grabbed the album, came and sat down on my couch, but I started streaming it. And so I'm streaming looking at liner notes and reading stuff, but for whatever reason, I really wanted to stream the album. I didn't want to put on the vinyl. I didn't want to throw in the CD. So can I explain to you exactly why I had that urge? No, but just something in the musical desire inside of me and all the different formats, and again, being so open to and being into all the different formats, sometimes a craving just comes, and for whatever reason, I get kind of pulled that way. So buying cassettes just keeps those doors very open for me and keeps those different experiences open for me, and I love it. Love all formats. So next question here, do you listen to, this is Kyrie, do you listen to trip hop, like Tricky, Massive Attack, etc.? If so, what are some of your favorite songs, artists, or albums? That's really not a genre that I am very in tune with, so no, I couldn't really name or share any favorites or anything in that area. Matter of fact, if you've followed my channel and watched some of my videos and seen things I'm kind of into, I'd be more curious about maybe you introducing me to some stuff that you think I might dig based on other stuff that you've seen me kind of sharing that I like. So I'll kind of lean to you to maybe share a couple things with me there. SJ, are you making a best of list for 2021? I'm not making a list, but I've seen a few people that have posted some videos already, so I'll probably end up doing at least, favorite finds or something of that nature, and always looking forward to the VC thread that goes around, like, the 30 random questions or whatever. Those are always fun each year. Hey, Mr. Hall of Fame, are you a Pink Floyd fan? This is Wacky Anteater. You darn right I am. And if so, what's your favorite album? So I went over to my Pink Floyd collection and I asked myself the simple question, because I really couldn't, it was kind of hard, as always. Which album have you listened to the most in the past 4 or 5 years? And it was this one here, which is Division Bell, which I found kind of interesting. But yeah, I've listened to this album more in the past 4 or 5 years than any other Pink Floyd album, which I guess means it must be currently my favorite. This is the 1994, I believe. Yeah, kind of after they did their hiatus and kind of came back with this. And I think it's great. Beautiful kind of musical landscapes. Some of those, what I refer to as kind of gospel elements, like what we heard in like Great Gig in the Sky and stuff like that. Gilmore's guitar playing on stuff like What Do You Want From Me, like the way he was riffing through that. I just think it's just a lot of beautiful aspects of Floyd kind of came together all in one on this album, and it's fantastic. So considering I listened to it the most, I'm assuming that's probably my favorite Pink Floyd album right now. With The Wall, I think, being the album I've listened to the most second over the past few years. Let's see. So we're at 13 minutes. Okay, so the last question I'll do here is reissues or originals, and what do you think about 180 grams as far as the way they look and feel? What I mean is when you hold them in your hand, so just kind of saying you don't like the way they look and feel. So reissues or originals, and what do you think about 180 gram vinyl? I think 180 gram vinyl, we'll start with that piece, was supposed to be kind of like a big deal, especially right before the resurgence kind of kicked in, like heavier vinyl, deeper cut, and all that type of stuff, which should make sense, right? But I think really now 180 gram vinyl almost seems like there's almost like a Pavlov dog's reaction to it for me at this point in time, which means I see 180 gram vinyl on the front of something, a brand new reissue. The first thing I think is there's probably a 60% chance there's going to be some type of issue with the album. And I'm saying issue, I'm talking about quality control type of issues. And again, let's not get too deep on this, but with 180 gram vinyl, with it being thicker, when you couple that with the lack of quality control and the way that they're rushing and putting vinyl out, I think that's just a really bad mixture for getting a lot of negative things with vinyl. So for example, if you have vinyl that's a little more flimsy, if you will, just keep it simple, they're not apt to warp, and especially hold the warp as hard as 180 gram vinyl. which to me, where that becomes significant, and I have no proof of this, but I know Billy Hurst and I, we've talked about over Riverbend Records, we've talked about this before. It's like with the way they're rushing to get everything out, they're doing everything so fast and just next batch, next batch. Are they really giving everything the time it needs to cure and everything else? And they're making these 180 gram vinyls, touching them before they should be touched, shoved into these paper sleeves, you know, stacked up and everything and shipped and everything. And all of a sudden, like, they come with these warps in them, and it's, you know, again, that thick, heavy vinyl. It's going to be so hard to even ever get those out. And not to mention, you touched it before you should, you rubbed it across this hard paper before you should. Now there's all these marks and everything. And so it really is kind of at a point where if I open up a brand new reissue and I reach in and a big, thick, heavy vinyl is coming out with a paper sleeve, I have every expectation it's not going to be just a near mint vinyl. There's going to be marks. There's going to be whatever else. And when you actually pull it out and you see there isn't, it's a little bit of a shock. So I think 180 gram with that quality control together is just a bad, or lack of quality control is a bad mixture. As far as reissues or original pressings, I'll try to make this kind of quick. My thing is, I love both. It varies from album to album. I just get a hair up my butt for whatever reason. I want an original pressing of this. I want a reissue of this. Other albums, I want both. It really just kind of depends. So what I always say with reissues or original pressings is don't allow yourself to get caught on one side of that, what sometimes becomes a little battle or whatever, where, you know, it's like, I'm not going to get those reissues, you know, digital sourcing and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, fine. Or I'm not, see, you guys care about that OG pressing stuff. I don't care about that. I just want an album that, it's like, okay, fine. But like, can't just both of those be okay? Like, why does everyone have to tell the other person they don't care about what they're doing? Like, why can't you just say why you do what you do? And this is what I like, and just share it, you know? So that's just kind of the way I view that whole thing. But yeah, so really for me, it's just, I've gone through different phases of loving both. When I first went through I guess overall, my biggest thing, more so than even original pressing or reissue, is condition. That is my number one. So if there's an album that I really want, and again, we're not talking about some $300, $400 Grail or that type or whatever, but it's just an album that I want. Here's an original pressing that has some ring wear, some scuffs on the album. The album cover and the vinyl is VG+. Here's a reissue, and it's near mint. I'm probably going to go with the reissue because condition is first and foremost. And if you flip the condition, I'm going to go with the original pressing. So that's always my number one. Like when I'm showing stuff, oftentimes you don't see ring wear and things of that nature because I pass up a lot of albums until I get to that condition. Now, after I go through condition, like I said, it just kind of depends on the album. A few years ago, I did a big purge where I got rid of everything that was in bad condition, that wasn't in excellent or near mint condition, which meant I got rid of a lot of original pressings. And I bought reissues because they were near mint. Now I've kind of gotten more back into original pressings. So now I'm going back and getting the original pressings, some that I sold, but they have to be excellent or near mint condition. So I'm just, if you're asking me personally reissue or originals, I'm just kind of like, I'm being opportunistic. I'm just seeing what's out there, seeing what my heart desires, and I just go with it. And I'm never going to tell anybody what they're doing is wrong in any way, shape, or form. It's like, you spend your money, you come home, you're holding this vinyl record in your hands. If you are happy as hell with what you just purchased, you purchased the right damn thing. That's all it boils down to in my book. Because again, we're all making our own diaries, our own stories. So no one should be telling you what should or should not be in your story. So anyway, that's the first set of questions, VC. Appreciate you guys asking. And please, like I said, go back to the video if you have other questions or just other things that you want me to kind of show or talk about, because this stuff is really fun. I really appreciate you guys. All right, thanks, VC.